Good evening. Good evening, Atlantic City. Good evening, Longport, Margate, Ventnor, Brigantine, all of the Atlantic coastal cities that we are proudly in a unique and strategic collaboration with now. And good evening, everybody. Good evening, America. This is Jimmy Whitehead coming to you on the 5 o'clock every Friday, the Jimmy Whitehead Power Hour. And it's just a podcast I started a few months ago to create a platform to kind of keep everybody abreast of what we're doing, particularly with our cybersecurity workforce training program, to spread the good word about the unique collaborations that we're forming with other cities in the state and the federal and local government, all focused on Atlantic City economic development. So welcome. I hope everybody's having a wonderful week. And I will start out by saying happy Black History Month, happy President's Month, and happy blessed Valentine's Day. And I hope everybody has their Valentine gifts for their Valentine. If you haven't picked up your chocolates or your flowers or some perfume for the one you love, it's not too late. Don't forget it. I've already done all of my Valentine's wishes and blessings and gifts. Several months of the year that I really look forward to, and that's February, because of the combination of the Black History Month and the President's Month and Valentine's Month. I look forward to Ramadan coming up this month, and I look forward to my birthday in May, on May 12th, which Mother's Day is now turned into Mother's Month, which we're going to talk a little bit about. So, hello, everybody. First, I want to start out by sending a shout out to Brother Raymond Bethea, a soldier, a warrior. He just had to have a little athlete's operation. You know how these athletes from their knees and elbows and shoulders, and he is recovering like the champion, the true champion he is. So shout out to Brother Ray Bethea. Keep healing, brother, and keep doing all your therapy, and get back on your bike soon for the spring and take those long rides that you ride and all the stuff you do with our youth. Thank you very much. Keep healing, brother. So today, I wanted to talk about a couple of things and share some information with you. I want to make the announcement that please put on your calendar May 15th, 2026, because we're hosting our second annual Mother's Month breakfast. We're going to have it at Hard Rock Casino, and I'm trying to balance my head. It's kind of funny when you look at this camera to figure out, because if my head goes that way, I'm actually leaning to my right. Okay, if you go this way, I'm actually leaning to my left. So I'm trying to balance. That's why you see me moving around. But yeah, we're having we started something last year for Mother's Month, because I've always been a mama's boy, I guess they say. I've always loved the celebration of mothers, but I never thought one day celebrating our mothers was enough. Well, actually, we could celebrate them every day of the year wouldn't be enough for all they do. But I wanted to start something that celebrated the whole month of May for mothers. And I'm working with Miss Pamela, uh, Miss Pamela Thomas Fields, Miss Pamela Fields, um, on the project, and some other folks. And what we're going to do, we're going to host a breakfast. And I'm going to be posting some stuff about the breakfast. And I hope everyone will come. I want you to be engaged, be involved, and come out and support it and have a delicious breakfast and meet some very interesting individuals that we're inviting this year. We're going to have some special guest speakers talking about economics. We're going to honor some extraordinary mothers. And we're really going to have a very wonderful breakfast at Hard Rock. And I'm asking you to come out and support us. It's a nonprofit. So when you buy your ticket, it's a tax deduction. But more importantly, I need you to show up to show support for our ongoing efforts. I can't do it without you. I need you to be a part of what we're doing to support Atlantic City. I need you to be a part of what we're doing to support our Atlantic Coastal collaboration with all 5 of the mayors. I need you to be supportive, because going forward, we're going to expand our cybersecurity workforce training program to include some more unique workforce training. And we'll have more about that in the coming weeks and months, because we're going to start a program back up in the spring. We just had the graduation of our second cohort, which was 20 wonderful local Atlantic City adults who completed a very high, intense workforce training program for 10 weeks. And during that time, they became armed with a new skill that would allow them to go after better jobs in the future, regardless if it's in the hospitality industry or the healthcare industry or financial industry. The fact that they completed that intense cybersecurity workforce training program, they received a certificate from U.S. Hart as well as from the Honorable Commissioner Michael Ruffew. So when they put that together with their bio, their resume, and they submit that, they stand a head above a lot of individuals going after jobs, because that certification is important. It gives them some more assets. And the fact that they committed the time and they showed up and they took their tests and their examinations and they aced them and they did the complete program gives them a great deal of value and an asset going forward, seeking new jobs with a certified cybersecurity training. So please stay tuned for some of the announcements that we're going to have coming up in the spring, and we want to get more folks to participate. We're going to expand the program to some other states because now we're getting calls from other states, and we're going to work with some tribal nations as well to expand this program. But Atlantic City is always going to be the headquarters for the hub of our efforts. And so we're going to have to hire some cyber guardians to help us grow and scale that program nationally. So please stay tuned. And when we have these future training sessions, when we have our next cohort, please contact us and sign up. It's a wonderful opportunity that's not going to cost you anything. I mean, we're working with the federal government to cover the cost of your training, and it's something that will put Atlantic City and the Atlantic coastal communities ahead of a lot of other communities in America because we're training skilled workforce to change the economic paradigm of our wonderful city. Our extraordinary mayor, Marty Small Sr., has a wonderful cybersecurity program going on in City Hall to protect the assets and the data of the city. And he's very supportive of what we're doing and has constantly supported us. So it's a wonderful, wonderful program that has enormous potential to give local Atlantic City residents the opportunity to grow and to go after jobs that offer very rewarding salaries so that they can become future homeowners and future entrepreneurs in Atlantic City and help change the economic paradigm of Atlantic City to a capital for cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. So please stay tuned, be involved. If the requirements is if you're 18 and up, high school degree or GED will qualify you to participate in the program. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can always stop by the office or set up an appointment with Ms. Sharon Rowe to meet. But just stay tuned and follow our Friday Jimmy Whitehead Power Hour podcast, and we'll be showing you more information as we go along. But this is going to be a light podcast today because I really want this to be a month of celebrating Black History Month and President's Month and Valentine's Day. And I want to share some little contributions I may have made towards Black history. For example, I wanted to share this with you. Back in 1982, I believe it was, just 81, 82, 83, I was working for a gentleman who was a congressman who was named Congressman Jack Kemp. And Jack Kemp represented Buffalo, New York, and he was a Buffalo football player, quarterback. And anybody who knows me know I don't do a lot of sports. I don't follow football games, baseball games, basketball games because I believe that teachers should be paid what athletes get paid and vice versa. Athletes should get paid what teachers get paid. I just think that, sports and the camaraderie is all wonderful, but I pray for the day when we put that much focus and that much celebration into our youth education, and because that's what's most important. That's how we're going to build the future of America, by building our youth. But back to Jack Kemp, over the years before the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday became a legal holiday, there was an extraordinary lobbying effort by Coretta Scott King and Stevie Wonder and the Congressional Black Caucus and a lot of other organizations worked to help make the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday a legal holiday or a federal holiday. But there's a process. That's why it took so long to get it approved. And during that time, Congressman Jack Kemp was the chairman of what they call the Republican caucus, because on Capitol Hill, there are two houses, the Democrats, the Republican. Both of them have a caucus where all of the Republicans come together and meet in this room. And over in this room over here, all the Democrats come together to meet. And when they meet to talk about legislation they plan to vote on. So it's just a strategic session with the two parties in separate houses focusing on what they're going to vote for. And if they don't vote for it, it's not going to become a law. It's not going to become a federal law. It's not going to become a holiday. Everything has got to be voted on to get a majority of the votes to pass it. So when the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday came up for a vote, see, it was 1983. It came up for a vote in the House of Representatives. And it was at a time when I had actually met with Coretta Scott King several times in Jack Kemp's office. I met with Stevie Wonder numerous times because I was working on Capitol Hill at the time. I was 24 years old. Yeah, 21, 22, 23, 24. I was around that age. And I was a computer operator for Jack Kemp, a legislative computer operator. So Mr. Kemp went to the caucus meeting before lunch to meet with all the Republicans, because at the time, the Republicans had a majority of the House. It was a majority Republican Congress. And this was a day that they had to vote on whether or not to make Martin Luther King Jr. holiday a holiday. Now understand, when it comes up for a vote, if Congress doesn't vote on it, it goes back into this box, and it takes another several years for it to come back around for another vote, because they voting on thousands of things every year. Well, it was important that this time that they voted for the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday to be a federal holiday. So Mr. Kemp came into the office from the caucus meeting because they took a break for lunch. And at the time, I was the only African American working on his staff. This was in 1980. I was the only black person working on Jack Kemp's staff. But it wasn't because I was black. It was because I knew how to work that correspondence, that legislative correspondence computer. Matter of fact, at that time, I was considered one of the best computer operators on Capitol Hill, and it was self-taught. I taught myself how to use this particular computer. So I'm in there working on the computer, and Congressman Kemp comes into the office for his lunch break from the caucus, and he asked me to come in his office with him. And he asked me, he said, "Jimmy, let me ask you something." He said, "How important is this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday to you as a black man? How important is it that it becomes a law?" And I told him two things. I said, "Mr. Kemp," I say, "it is one of the most important holidays that America is asking for right now, because we went through a turbulent time during civil rights and a lot of the struggle for a lot of the great things that we have today from America. But it had a lot to do with Martin Luther King Jr.'s efforts, and it's important to black and white people. It ain't just a black holiday, it's a national holiday that's a red, white, and blue holiday, and it's important." And I told him the second thing I told him, I said, "Mr. Kemp, here's the second thing. If you ever plan to run for president of the United States of America, you don't want to be known as the man that prevented Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday from becoming a holiday." I said, "Because it's going to work against you." So he said, "Okay, thank you for your advice. Thank you for your thoughts on that." So he goes back to the caucus after lunch, and he told all of the Republicans, "We've got to vote for this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday to become law." He said, "We got to have a consensus. All of us got to vote for it." And he got all the Republicans to vote for the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday to become a federal holiday that day. And it's not because, I'm sure, of the discussion that he and I had in his office, but I was glad that he did talk to me about it and ask my opinion. And I didn't realize the impact of it at the time. I just was meeting with him. So after that happened, I'm gonna show you something. If it'll show this screen. Let me see if it'll show the screen. It might not. Let me me see. I have to figure out a different way to do this. Okay. Anyway, a little bit. Okay, how do we do this? It's virtual right now. Anyway, this plaque. Let me see if I can make a change here. Let me see. Well, anyway, I can't figure out right this minute. But this is the plaque. This is the plaque. Let me see if I can get this thing to work. I don't think I can. I'll come back. I'll post it. But what this was the actual Martin Luther King Jr. holiday legislation, which passed on November 2nd, 1983. And it was remarks of the president and Coretta Scott King. And the president said, "Please be seated. Mrs. King, members of the King family, distinguished members of Congress, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests. I am pleased to welcome you to the White House, the home that belongs to all of us, the American people." At the time, the president was Ronald Reagan. This is what he was saying. When I was thinking of the contributions to our country, the man that we're honoring today, a passage attributed to the American poet John Greenleaf Whittier, came to mind. Do it this way. The man, okay, Mr. Whittier came to mind, quote, "Each crisis brings in word and deed. Each crisis brings its word and deed." In America, in the 50s and 60s, one of the important crises we faced was racial discrimination. The man whose words and deeds in that crisis stirred our nation to the very depths of his soul was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King was born in 1929 in an America where, because of the color of their skin, nearly 1 in 10 lived lives that were segregated and unequal. Most Black Americans were taught in segregated schools across the country. Too many could find only poor jobs, tolling for low wages. They were refused entry into hotels and restaurants and made to use separate facilities. In a nation that proclaimed liberty and justice for all, too many Black Americans were living with neither. In one city, a rule required all Blacks to sit in the rear of public buses. But in 1955, when a brave woman named Rosa Parks was told to move to the back of the bus, she said no. A young minister in a local Baptist church, Martin Luther King, then organized a boycott of the bus company, a boycott that stunned the country. Within 6 months, the courts had ruled the segregation of public transportation unconstitutional. Dr. King had awakened something strong and true. A sense of true justice must be colorblind, and that among white and Black Americans, as he put it, something strong and true. As he put it, their destiny is tied up with our destiny, and their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedoms. We cannot walk alone. In the years after the bus boycott, Dr. King made equality of rights his life work. Across the country, he organized boycotts, rallies, and marches. Often he was beaten, imprisoned, but he never stopped teaching nonviolence. Work with the faith, he told his followers. Honor and suffering is redemptive. In 1964, Dr. King became the youngest man in history to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Dr. King's work brought him to this city often, talking about Washington, D.C. And on one sweltering August day in 1963, he addressed 250,000 people at the Lincoln Memorial. If American history grows from 2 centuries to 20, his words that day will never be forgotten. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. In 1968, Martin Luther King was gunned down by a brutal assassin. His life cut short at the age of 39. But those 39 short years had changed America forever. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 had guaranteed all Americans equal use of public accommodations, equal access to programs financed by federal funds, and the right to compete for employment on the sole basis of individual merit. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 had made certain that from then on, Black Americans would get to vote. But most important, it was not just a change of law. It was a change of heart. The conscience of America had been touched. Across the land, people had begun to treat each other not as black and whites, but as fellow Americans. And since Dr. King's death, his father, the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Sr., and his wife, Coretta Scott King, have eloquently and forcefully carried on his work. Also, his family has joined in that cause. Now, our nation has decided to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by setting aside a day each year to remember him and the just cause he stood for. We've made historic strides since Rosa Parks refused to go to the back of the bus. As a democratic people, we can take pride in the knowledge that we Americans recognize a grave injustice and took actions to correct it. And we should remember that in far too many countries, people like Dr. King never had the opportunity to speak out at all. But traces of bigotry still mar America. So each year on Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day, let us not only recall Dr. King, but rededicate ourselves to the commandments that he believed in and sought to live every day. Thou shalt love thy God with all thy heart, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And I just have to believe that all of us, young and old, Republicans and Democrats, do all we can to live up to those commandments. Then we will see the day when Martin Luther King's dream comes true. And in his words, all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, land where our fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. Thank you, God bless you, and I will sign it. Mrs. King statement. Thank you, Mr. President, Vice President Bush, Majority Leader Baker, and distinguished congressional and senatorial delegations, and other representatives who have gathered here, and friends. All right-thinking people, all right-thinking Americans are joined in spirit with us this day as the highest recognition which this nation gives is bestowed upon Martin Luther King Jr., one who also was the recipient of the highest recognition which the world bestows, the Nobel Peace Prize. In his own life example, he symbolized what was right about America, what was noblest and best, what human beings have persuaded since the beginning of history. He loved unconditionally. He was in constant pursuit of truth, and when he discovered it, he embraced it. His nonviolent campaigns brought about redemption, reconciliation, and justice. He taught us that all peaceful means can bring about peaceful ends, that our goal was to create the love community. America is a more democratic nation, a more just nation, a more peaceful nation because Martin Luther King Jr. became her preeminent nonviolent commander. Martin Luther King Jr. and his spirit lives within us all. Thank God for the blessings of his life and his leadership and his commitment. What manner of a man was this? May we make ourselves worthy to carry on his dream and create the love community. Thank you. That was Mrs. King's statement. And this was signed on November 2nd, 1983, by President Ronald Wilson Reagan, one of the presidents I worked for. And then Mr. Kemp, who had that discussion with me in his office that day, before he went back to the Republican caucus to get all the Republicans to vote for this. Because again, it was extraordinary that if all the Republicans did not vote, or enough Republicans didn't vote, there would not be a Martin Luther King Jr. holiday today. This was the Republican caucus working with the Democratic caucus, a bipartisan collaboration to make this holiday a federal holiday. So since I had that discussion with Mr. Kemp, he took the law. It's on a beautiful piece of paper that I had framed with a picture of him, and it has the first dollar bill in it that I made with my first business, American Word Processing, and it has a copy of my United States House of Representatives ID card that I had to carry. But on the bottom of the law, Mr. Kemp wrote to me, "For Jimmy Whitehead, without whose help I could not have been a part of this great day of celebration. With friendship and admiration, Jack Kemp." And there was a time when I couldn't read that without my eyes getting watery and juicy. And I will post that so you can see the actual legislation online. But I wanted to share that with you guys today because this is Black History Month. And creating the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday was real black and white history, because it was black and white folks working together to make it a holiday. And all history in America is black and white history, the good and the bad. From 400 years ago when slavery started to 2026, when we have had incredible strides in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of political elections, in terms of education achievement, academic achievement, in terms of having mayors who are African American, to having a black president. It's all about black and white working together. That's why I always have my little saying that, what we're doing is bringing together black and white capitalism to create red, white, and blue capitalism, because I believe in that. I believe that we can't accomplish anything divided. We have to work together. We have to progress together. We have to do everything together to make America the greatest country in the world, which it is. And that's something I wanted to share. So, this particular podcast, this Jimmy Whitehead Power Hour, it's not as much about business and capitalism as it is about celebrating the goodness of America, celebrating the goodness of mankind, celebrating the goodness of black folks and white folks working together to make it all better. You know, I know we're going through, people say we're going through some difficult times right now, but it's really not difficult. There's a lot of distractions out there to try to take people off their focus. But I like what Mayor Marty Small has said. You know, he came back and he said, you know, he's focused on faith, resilience, and redemption. Faith, having faith that we can all work together to make Atlantic City and the Atlantic coastal cities a better place. Resilience, which is something anybody knows me and knows that I am about resilience and tenacity and patience. You can never give up. And when you fall down, you got to get back up. And you got to keep moving forward. And redemption, we all need to be forgiven. Nobody's perfect. Only God is perfect. And when you take that collective saying that the mayor came out with, faith, resilience, redemption, it's the kind of stuff that Martin Luther King Jr. would have said back in the 60s and back in the 50s and 60s. And I like that. You know, I like to see everybody working together. I like to see our young people have an opportunity to step up. I love seeing these local Atlantic City folks becoming cyber guardians because that's going to solidify their future in terms of opportunity to grow with rewarding job opportunities or rewarding entrepreneurial opportunities. And the Black history that we celebrate, which is the Black and white history of America, created this fabulous human social experiment they call America. The youngest country in the world is America. And we're the greatest country in the world. Think about that. Like, for example, a country like Portugal. Portugal has not had a war in over 1,000 years. Not saying how old the country is, because the country is older than 1,000, but they haven't had a war in 1,000 years. America is a baby. Well, we're coming up on our 250th birthday this July, and we're a couple of years, 100 years older than that, but that's when we became America with the Constitution. And I'm just so pleased to be a part of it. I'm very honored to had the opportunity to be in the U.S. Navy. I'm very honored to have had the opportunity to work in the halls of Congress, to work in the White House. And I'm very honored to be here in Atlantic City, working with some extraordinary leaders at the local level, at the county level, and at the state level to get our cybersecurity program to become reality. I couldn't have done it alone. No man is an island. And everything that Martin Luther King Jr. did in the 60s, he could not have done it by himself. When Jack Kemp went to the other Republican congressmen and told them we have all got to stand up and vote for this holiday to make it a reality, Mr. Kemp could not have done it by himself. He needed to have the other members of the Republican caucus to make it happen. So here we are today, focused on bipartisan partnerships, bipartisan collaborations, focused on how to make America greater going forward, because America ain't finished yet. She's still growing her greatness, and it is an extraordinary melting pot of diversity that makes it happen. And we are all America. We are all American. if you are a citizen. You have to be a citizen, and that's why everybody wants to come here. Everybody wants to be a citizen in America, because why would you leave your country to come to another country? Because there's a greater opportunity for you in that other country. Just think about it. I'm so glad I'm an American, and I'm glad that you're an American too. Regardless if you're black or you're white, I want to work with you to make our city better, to make our state better, and to make our country better. So with that, I'm going to end this discussion today because I want to let that just marinate. I want everybody to have a fabulous holiday month. I want you to celebrate President's Day because, this is also President's Month. So a shout out to President Donald Trump. He's the commander in chief, and all the other presidents have served in that extraordinary position, that extraordinary role of the leader of America. I just want to let that marinate. I just want to let Black History Month, President's Month, and Valentine's Day marinate, because I don't want to get into the depth about a lot of other subjects right now. And I just want to wish everybody a very happy, blessed holiday month in February. I want everybody to remember to go pick up those dozens of roses or 2 dozens of roses and put some Quincy Jones on or something, and whatever music you like. Get you a nice bottle of Pinot Grigio or whatever, and treat that lady like those roses. Get her a bottle of Chanel perfume or some Prada perfume. Get her something special, because Valentine's Day is really about that special woman in your life, whether it's your wife, it's your fiance, or your girlfriend, or your daughter. All of them are so important, and that is their day. And then stay tuned for our upcoming Mother's Month breakfast at Hard Rock, which I have more information to share in upcoming episodes. But I just want to wish everybody a blessed weekend and enjoy your holiday. Enjoy your Valentine's Day. And may God bless America always. Thank you. This is the Jimmy White Hip Power Hour. I'll see you all next Friday. Same bat channel, same bat time.